The dream life. Elena Martinez stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her Miami penthouse, watching the sunrise paint the ocean in shades of gold and pink. At 32 years old, she had everything she had worked for. Her architecture firm, Martinez Designs, was winning awards. Her designs were changing Miami's skyline. And Marcus Chen, her boyfriend of 3 years, had just moved in with her last month. Life felt perfect. Too perfect, perhaps. Elena sipped her coffee and smiled at the thought of Marcus still sleeping in their bedroom. They had met at an architecture conference in Chicago. Marcus was a real estate developer with charm that could melt ice. His dark eyes had found hers across a crowded room, and something had clicked instantly. Within 6 months, they were inseparable. Within a year, they were building a future together. "Good morning, beautiful," Marcus's voice came from behind her. His arms wrapped around her waist, and he kissed her neck softly. "Good morning." Elena turned in his embrace, happiness bubbling in her chest. "Big day today. The Richardson Project presentation." Marcus smiled, but something flickered in his eyes. Something Elena was too excited to notice. "You'll be amazing. You always are." The cracks began to show. The Richardson Project was Elena's masterpiece. A sustainable housing complex that would provide affordable, beautiful homes while respecting the environment. She had poured 2 years of work into every detail. Her business partner, Victoria Sinclair, had helped with the business side while Elena focused on the creative vision. Victoria had been Elena's best friend since college. They had started the firm together 7 years ago, combining Victoria's business skills with Elena's creative genius. Victoria was the sister Elena never had. Or so she thought. At the office that morning, Elena noticed something odd. Victoria's office door was closed, which was unusual. Victoria believed in an open-door policy. Elena knocked gently. "Come in." Victoria's voice sounded strained. Elena entered to find Victoria hurriedly closing her laptop. "Everything okay?" "Perfect. Just some personal emails." Victoria's smile was too bright, too forced. "Ready for the big presentation?" "Always." Elena studied her friend's face. Victoria looked tired, with dark circles under her green eyes. "Are you sure you're all right? You look exhausted." "Just stress. You know how it is." Victoria stood up quickly, gathering her files. "Let's go show Richardson what we've got." The perfect presentation. The presentation went flawlessly. Mr. Richardson, a powerful real estate mogul, was impressed. His team asked intelligent questions. Elena answered with confidence, showing 3D models and sustainable features that would make the project revolutionary. "Miss Martinez," Richardson said at the end, "this is exactly what Miami needs. I want to move forward immediately." Elena's heart soared. This was the biggest project of her career. The contract would make her firm one of the most respected in Florida. "However," Richardson continued, "I have one concern. I need to verify that these designs are completely original. We've had issues in the past with stolen concepts." "Of course," Elena said confidently. "Every design is my original work. I can provide all my sketches and development files." "Excellent. My lawyers will contact you next week to finalize everything." Elena and Victoria left the meeting floating on air. They celebrated with champagne at lunch, talking excitedly about the future. Elena never noticed how Victoria checked her phone constantly, texting someone with urgent fingers. The discovery. 2 nights later, Elena's perfect world began to crumble. Marcus said he had a late business meeting. Elena decided to work from home, refining some details for the Richardson project. She needed a file from her laptop, which she had left at the office. The office building was quiet at 8 p.m. Elena's heels echoed in the empty hallway. She unlocked the office door and froze. Voices came from Victoria's office. A man's voice and Victoria's voice, speaking in hushed, intimate tones. Elena's instincts screamed at her to announce herself, but something made her stay silent. She crept closer to Victoria's half-open door. "We need to be more careful," Victoria said. "Elena almost saw the files yesterday. She trusts you completely." That was Marcus's voice. Elena's blood turned to ice. She's so naive. She actually believes we're celebrating her success. Victoria laughed. A cruel sound Elena had never heard from her friend before. Once Richardson signs, we'll have everything we need. My contacts in New York are ready to buy the designs. We'll make millions. And Elena? Marcus asked. She'll be destroyed. By the time she figures out what happened, we'll be gone. Her reputation will be ruined. No one will believe her. Elena's hand flew to her mouth, stopping the gasp that wanted to escape. Her heart hammered so loudly she was sure they would hear it. I almost feel bad, Marcus said, but his tone suggested he felt nothing of the sort. She really loves me. Please, Victoria scoffed. You've been with me for over a year. Elena was just a meal ticket. Her talent, her connections, her trust. We used it all perfectly. Elena backed away slowly, her mind spinning. A year? They had been betraying her for a year? She felt sick. Her legs barely carried her out of the office. She made it to her car before the tears came. The evidence hunt. Elena didn't go home that night. She couldn't face Marcus, couldn't pretend everything was fine. Instead, she checked into a hotel and tried to think clearly through the pain. She had two choices. Confront them or gather evidence first. Elena had always been smart. She hadn't built a successful firm by being careless. She chose evidence. The next morning, Elena called in sick. She spent the day accessing her office computer remotely, searching through files she had never thought to check before. What she found made her stomach turn. Victoria had been copying Elena's designs for months. Files were timestamped showing systematic theft. But more damning were the emails. Victoria had been in contact with a design firm in New York, selling Elena's concepts. They had made hundreds of thousands of dollars already. And Marcus had helped with everything. He had used his real estate connections to find buyers. He had distracted Elena while Victoria stole files. He had gained Elena's complete trust just to betray it. The worst part? They planned to frame Elena for the theft. Documents showed they were preparing to accuse her of selling firm secrets, destroying her reputation before anyone could believe her side of the story. Elena downloaded everything to a secure drive. She made copies. She was preparing for war. The confrontation. Elena returned to the office the next day, acting normal. She smiled at Victoria. She texted Marcus sweet messages. But inside she was planning. She waited until Friday evening. She called a firm meeting with Victoria, claiming they needed to discuss the Richardson contract. She asked Marcus to join them, saying she wanted his business perspective. They gathered in the conference room. Elena had set up her laptop, projector ready. Thank you both for coming, Elena said calmly. I want to show you something interesting I found. She clicked a button. Emails appeared on the screen. Victoria's emails selling Elena's designs. Victoria's face went white. Marcus stood up quickly. Elena, let me explain. Victoria started. Explain what? Elena's voice was cold, controlled. Explain how my best friend and my boyfriend have been stealing from me for a year? Explain how you plan to destroy my reputation? Please explain. Marcus moved toward her, his charming smile in place. Baby, you're misunderstanding. Don't. Elena's voice could have cut glass. Don't you dare call me that. Don't you dare lie to my face anymore. The gaslighting. What happened next, Elena never expected. Instead of admitting guilt, they attacked. You're being paranoid, Victoria said, recovering her composure. These are taken out of context. I was protecting the firm's interests. By selling my designs? Elena pulled up transaction records. This is protection? Marcus moved closer, his expression concerned. Elena, have you been sleeping? You look exhausted. You've been under so much stress. Maybe you're seeing things that aren't there. I'm seeing things? Elena couldn't believe what she was hearing. There's proof right here. Proof that Victoria was consulting with other firms, Marcus said smoothly. That's smart business. You're interpreting it wrong because you're tired and stressed. Victoria nodded, her voice gentle and caring. Elena, honey, we're worried about you. You've been working so hard. Maybe you need a break. This paranoia, these accusations, they're not like you. Elena stared at them, horror dawning. They were gaslighting her, making her question her own sanity. I know what I saw, Elena said firmly. I know what you did. Then show it to Richardson, Victoria challenged. Show it to anyone. But think carefully, Elena. If you make these accusations and can't prove them, you'll destroy your own reputation. Everyone will think you've had a breakdown. Marcus touched Elena's shoulder. She jerked away. We love you, Elena. We want to help you. But you need to see a doctor. This stress is making you imagine things. Elena looked at the evidence on the screen, then at their concerned faces. Doubt crept in. Had she interpreted things wrong? No. No, she knew what she heard. She knew what she read. But they were good. They were so good at lying and manipulation. And Elena realized with growing dread that they had prepared for this. They had covered their tracks better than she thought. The fall. Elena left that meeting shaken. Not because she doubted the truth, but because she realized how carefully they had planned this. They had backup stories. They had explanations. And they had the advantage of time and preparation. She decided to fight back. She hired a lawyer. She gathered more evidence. She prepared to expose them. But Elena made one mistake. She underestimated how far they would go. 2 weeks later, Elena was driving home after meeting with her lawyer. She had given him copies of everything. She was ready to file charges. As she drove across the bridge over Biscayne Bay, another car slammed into her from behind. Elena's car spun wildly. She fought for control, but the other car hit her again harder. Her vehicle crashed through the bridge railing. Time slowed. Elena saw the water rushing up to meet her. She heard metal crunching. She felt the impact as her car hit the water. Then everything went dark. The survival. Elena woke up in a hospital 3 days later. Her body ached everywhere. A nurse smiled with relief when she opened her eyes. Welcome back, Miss Martinez. You're very lucky to be alive. The police called it an accident. Hit and run. They never found the other driver. But Elena knew better. She knew in her bones that Marcus and Victoria had tried to kill her. Elena's lawyer visited her in the hospital. His face was grim. I'm sorry, Miss Martinez, he said. The files you gave me were corrupted. Nothing is usable as evidence. And while you've been in the hospital, Victoria filed papers claiming you've been mentally unstable. She's taking control of the firm. Elena lay in her hospital bed, broken in body and spirit. She had lost everything. Her business, her reputation, her trust in people. Marcus and Victoria had won. Or so they thought. As Elena stared at the hospital ceiling, something changed inside her. The pain, the betrayal, the anger. It all crystallized into something cold and hard. They had tried to destroy her. They had almost killed her. But Elena Martinez was still alive. And she would make sure they regretted leaving her that way. The promise. Elena's recovery took 3 months. 3 months of physical therapy. 3 months of watching from afar as Marcus and Victoria took credit for her work. 3 months of planning. Her lawyer had been right about the evidence. Somehow the files had been corrupted. But Elena remembered everything. Every email. Every transaction. Every detail. She would rebuild. She would come back stronger. And she would make them pay for every single thing they had stolen from her. On the day Elena was released from the hospital, she stood at the same window where she had once watched the sunrise with joy. Now she watched it with determination. This isn't over, Elena whispered to the dawn. This is just beginning. She had no money, no firm, no reputation. But she had something Marcus and Victoria didn't count on. She had the will to survive. And she had a burning desire for redemption. The old Elena Martinez had died in that car crash. The woman who emerged from the hospital was someone new. Someone harder. Someone who understood that in this world sometimes you had to fight fire with fire. Elena picked up her phone and made a call. Hello? I need to disappear for a while. Can you help me? As she packed her few belongings, Elena smiled for the first time in months. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a woman who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Marcus and Victoria thought they had won. They thought Elena was broken. They had no idea that they had just created their worst nightmare. The game was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. End of part 1. 2,000 words. Welcome to my channel Burning for Redemption. Don't forget to like and subscribe for part 2, where Elena rises from the ashes and begins her revenge. Would you like me to continue with Part 2? The Rising Phoenix now? Part 2 and 313:10 Burning for Redemption. Part 2 The Rising Phoenix. The Rebirth. 6 months had passed since Elena Martinez disappeared from Miami. The woman who now walked the streets of New Orleans called herself Isabelle Rousseau. She had chocolate brown hair instead of black, green contact lenses instead of brown eyes, and a completely different style. Where Elena had been polished and professional, Isabelle was artistic and mysterious. New Orleans suited her new identity. The city thrived on secrets and reinvention. Here nobody asked too many questions about your past. Elena had chosen it carefully, far enough from Miami to avoid accidental recognition, but close enough to keep tabs on Marcus and Victoria. Elena lived in a small apartment in the French Quarter. Every morning, she watched the sunrise over the Mississippi River and remembered why she was here. Revenge wasn't just about anger anymore. It was about justice. It was about making sure they never hurt anyone else the way they had hurt her. She had spent these months carefully rebuilding. A friend from college, someone Marcus and Victoria didn't know about, had helped her establish her new identity. Elena worked as a freelance designer under Isabelle's name, taking small projects that paid cash. She saved every penny. She watched. She waited. She planned. The research. Elena's small apartment looked nothing like her former penthouse, but it served a different purpose. One wall was covered with photos, newspaper clippings, and notes connected by red string. It looked like something from a detective movie. But Elena wasn't playing. This was her war room. She had tracked every move Marcus and Victoria made since the accident. They had married 3 months ago in a lavish ceremony. The society pages showed them smiling, toasting their success. Victoria wore Elena's grandmother's engagement ring, the one Marcus had stolen when Elena was in the hospital. Their business was thriving. They had taken the Richardson project and claimed full credit. They had won 3 more major contracts using Elena's designs. They were making millions. Living in Elena's penthouse. Driving expensive cars. Living the life they had stolen. But Elena had discovered something interesting in her research. Marcus and Victoria weren't as perfect as they appeared. Their business practices were questionable. They cut corners on projects. They bribed inspectors. They had made enemies. Powerful enemies who would love to see them fall. Elena just needed the right opportunity. The right moment to strike. The mysterious encounter. That opportunity walked into her life on a rainy Thursday evening. Elena was working at Café du Monde, sketching designs on her tablet while tourists crowded around for beignets. She liked working in public places. The noise helped her think. She was so focused on her work that she didn't notice the man approaching until he spoke. "Those are remarkable," a deep voice said. Elena looked up, startled. The man standing beside her table was tall, probably 6'3", with dark hair touched with silver at the temples. He wore an expensive suit that fit perfectly, and his gray eyes studied her work with genuine interest. He looked to be in his early 40s, handsome in a refined way that suggested old money and power. "Thank you," Elena said politely, closing her tablet. She had learned to be careful about who saw her work. "I'm sorry to interrupt," the man said with a slight smile. "I'm Dante Romano. I invest in architectural projects, and I couldn't help but notice your designs. They're extraordinary." Elena's heart skipped. Romano. She had heard that name in her research. Dante Romano was a wealthy investor based in New Orleans. He had tried to do business with Marcus and Victoria 6 months ago. The deal had fallen through, and rumors said Marcus had cheated Romano out of a significant amount of money. "Isabelle Rousseau," Elena offered her fake name, shaking his extended hand. His grip was firm and warm. "And thank you, but I'm just sketching ideas." "Just ideas?" Dante pulled out a chair, asking with his eyes if he could sit. Elena nodded, curious. "These just ideas show more talent than most architects I've worked with. May I ask where you studied?" Elena gave him the background story she had prepared for Isabelle. A small design school in France. Freelance work in Europe. Recently moved to New Orleans for a fresh start. All lies but delivered smoothly. Dante listened intently, his gray eyes never leaving her face. Elena felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. She hadn't felt attracted to anyone since Marcus. She had thought that part of her died with her old identity. The business proposition. "I have a proposition for you," Dante said after they had talked for an hour. "I'm planning a major development project here in New Orleans. Historic renovation combined with modern sustainability. I've been looking for the right architect, someone with vision and talent. Your work suggests you might be that person." Elena's mind raced. This could be the opportunity she needed. A way back into the architecture world. A way to rebuild her reputation under a new name. And possibly a connection to someone who had his own reasons to dislike Marcus and Victoria. "That's very generous," Elena said carefully. "But you just met me. You've only seen some sketches. Why would you offer me such an opportunity?" Dante's smile was enigmatic. "I'm a good judge of talent, Miss Rousseau. And I'm also a good judge of character. You have shadows in your eyes that suggest you're running from something or toward something. Either way, people with motivation work harder than people who are comfortable." Elena felt exposed, as if he could see through her disguise. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't you?" Dante leaned forward slightly. "I make it my business to know things, Miss Rousseau. Or should I say Miss Martinez?" Elena's blood turned to ice. Her hand moved instinctively toward her bag. Toward the small knife she always carried now. "I don't." "Relax." Dante held up his hands peacefully. "I'm not your enemy. In fact, I might be the best friend you could have right now. Because I know exactly what Marcus Chen and Victoria Sinclair did to you. And I want to help you destroy them. The alliance." Elena stared at Dante, her mind spinning with questions and possibilities. How did he know? What did he want? Could she trust him? "Let's take a walk," Dante suggested. "Somewhere more private where we can talk freely." Against her better judgment, Elena agreed. They walked along the riverfront, the rain having stopped, leaving the air fresh and clean. Dante told his story as they walked. "A year ago, I invested $5 million in a project with Marcus Chun," Dante explained. "A luxury hotel development. Marcus showed me beautiful designs, promised incredible returns. I later discovered those designs were stolen from a young architect named Elena Martinez. The project was a disaster. Marcus cut corners, bribed inspectors, and when the structural problems became too obvious to hide, he disappeared with my investment." Elena listened, anger building in her chest. "He destroyed my designs." "He destroys everything he touches," Dante agreed. "I've spent months investigating him and Victoria. I know about the accident that nearly killed you. I know they tried to murder you to hide their crimes. I know they're still using your designs and claiming them as their own." "How did you find me?" Elena asked. Dante smiled slightly. "I have resources. When I learned you survived the accident but disappeared, I had my people look for you. Your transformation is good but not perfect. The way you hold a pencil when you sketch, the distinctive style of your work, these things are harder to hide than hair color and eye color." Elena stopped walking and faced him. "What do you want from me?" "The same thing you want," Dante said simply. "Justice. Revenge. Whatever you want to call it. I want Marcus and Victoria to pay for what they've done. And I think together we can make that happen." The growing trust. Over the next few weeks, Elena and Dante met regularly. At first, their meetings were purely business. They shared information about Marcus and Victoria, planning strategies for exposure and revenge. Dante had financial records showing Marcus's fraud. Elena had knowledge of which designs were stolen and how they had been altered. But slowly their relationship changed. Business dinners became longer. Conversations shifted from revenge to personal topics. Elena found herself laughing for the first time in months. Dante shared stories about his childhood in Sicily, his move to America, the wife he had lost to cancer 5 years ago. "I understand loss," Dante said one evening as they sat on his balcony overlooking the city. "I understand what it's like to have your world destroyed and have to rebuild from nothing." Elena looked at him, seeing past the wealthy investor to the man beneath. "How did you survive it?" "I decided that surviving wasn't enough," Dante said quietly. "I decided to live again. To find purpose beyond the pain." "You're doing the same thing, Elena. You're not just surviving. You're preparing to reclaim your life." Elena felt tears threatening. She hadn't cried since leaving the hospital. She had been too angry, too focused on revenge. But Dante's words touched something deep inside her. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared that even if we destroy them, I'll still be broken. That I'll never be able to trust anyone again." Dante reached over and took her hand. His touch was gentle but firm. Trust isn't about never being hurt. It's about being brave enough to try again despite the pain. Elena looked into his gray eyes and felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. Something real was growing between them. Something that both excited and terrified her. The complication. Their first major strike against Marcus and Victoria came 2 months after Elena and Dante formed their alliance. Using Dante's connections, they exposed a bribery scandal involving one of Marcus's projects. An inspector came forward with evidence that Marcus had paid him to overlook serious structural violations. The story made headlines. Marcus and Victoria's company took a major hit, but they recovered quickly, blaming a rogue employee and promising reforms. They were good at damage control. "We need something bigger," Elena said, frustrated. "Something they can't explain away." "We'll get there," Dante assured her. "We're building a case piece by piece. The bigger the fall, the longer the setup." But then came news that complicated everything. Victoria announced on social media that she was pregnant. The society pages gushed about the golden couple expecting their first child. The photos showed Marcus with his hand on Victoria's small baby bump, both of them glowing with happiness. Elena felt sick when she saw the pictures. She had once dreamed of having children with Marcus. Now he was starting a family with the woman who had helped him destroy Elena's life. "This doesn't change anything," Dante said when Elena showed him the announcement. "Doesn't it?" Elena paced his office angrily. "She's pregnant, Dante. When we expose them, we'll be affecting an innocent child. The child will be better off knowing the truth about its parents," Dante argued. "And Elena, Victoria might be lying about the pregnancy. It could be a sympathy play, a way to gain public support." Elena wanted to believe that, but she knew Victoria too well. The happiness in those photos looked genuine. Victoria was really pregnant. The wedding plan. Despite the complication, Elena and Dante continued building their case. They gathered evidence of fraud, theft, and corruption. They documented every design Marcus and Victoria had stolen. They found the financial trail showing millions of dollars in illegal profits. But they needed one perfect moment to reveal everything. One moment when Marcus and Victoria would be at their most vulnerable, most exposed. That moment came when Victoria announced they were renewing their vows. A grand ceremony, she said, to celebrate their first anniversary and the coming baby. It would be a massive event, covered by media, attended by Miami's elite. The perfect stage for their downfall. "This is it," Elena said, studying the invitation that Dante had received. "This is our moment." "Are you sure?" Dante asked carefully. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Your old identity will be exposed. Everyone will know Elena Martinez is alive." Elena looked at the invitation at the gold-embossed names. Marcus Chan and Victoria Sinclair. Once those names had meant love and friendship. Now they meant betrayal and pain. "I'm sure," Elena said firmly. "I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of being Isabel. It's time for Elena Martinez to come back and reclaim everything they stole." The unexpected confession. As the date of the vow renewal approached, Elena spent more and more time with Dante. They were finalizing their plan, but there was tension between them that had nothing to do with revenge. One night, 2 weeks before the ceremony, they were working late at Dante's home. Elena stood up to stretch, walking to the window. Dante came up behind her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Elena," he said softly, "there's something I need to tell you before we go through with this." Elena turned to face him. "What is it?" Dante seemed to struggle with his words, unusual for a man who was always so confident. "When this started, my motivation was purely about getting my money back and destroying Marcus. But that changed. You changed it." Elena's heart began to beat faster. "Dante, I've fallen in love with you," Dante said simply. "I know the timing is terrible. I know you're still healing. But I needed you to know before everything happens. I needed you to know that whatever happens with Marcus and Victoria, my feelings for you are real. Elena stared at him, emotions swirling through her. Fear, excitement, doubt, hope. She had sworn she would never trust anyone again. But Dante had proven himself over and over. He had helped her without asking for anything in return. He had been patient with her healing. He had shown her that not all men were like Marcus. I'm scared, Elena whispered. I know. Dante cupped her face gently. But Elena, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met. You survived attempted murder. You rebuilt yourself from nothing. You're about to face your demons head-on. Being scared doesn't make you weak. Acting despite